Good afternoon and welcome to the Board of Health meeting of May 3rd, 2021. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chairman. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Chatham Board of Health is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public is permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, and the call-in ID is 560-197-374#. Despite our best efforts, if we are not able to provide for real-time access, we will post a record of the meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. I'm going to turn this meeting now over to the Board of Health Chair, John Beckley.
Thank you, Judy. Welcome, everyone.
Hey, John?
Yes, Bob.
Yeah, can you turn on your camera, please? They'd like to have all committee members have their camera on during the meetings.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Before we begin the meeting, let me take roll just to establish that we have a quorum. When I call your name, please indicate whether you're on the call. Dr. Noble Hanson.
Present.
Ron Broman.
Here.
Ed Sheehan.
Yes.
Carol Boyce.
Here.
And John Beckley, I'm here. So all 5 Board of Health members are on the call. And in addition, we have an alternate board member, Dr. Dick Edwards.
Here.
Okay, very good.
And John, we also have Alan Ward is on the call listening in.
I didn't know that. Hello,
Yes.
Alan.
Hi, John.
Dr. Alan Ward. Thank you, sir. Okay, let's get started with the agenda. The first item is a continued sewer connection order hearing for Christine Plummer at 98 and 100 and 100A Oyster Pond Furlong, and representing the applicant is Attorney William Litchfield.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Bill Litchfield here on behalf of actually not the current owner, but 2 prospective buyers, John Naddis and Stephen Naddis, who I believe are on the call with us. During the course of their preparation to buy these 2 houses, or actually 3 houses at 98 and 100, the Naddises became aware, as did we, of the fact that there is an outstanding sewer connection order. As you all know better than I, we don't have sewer police, and sometimes connection orders aren't adhered to as precisely as we might like. And apparently, this property had an extension until last February. Fortunately, my clients, if they buy the property and they intend to, have every plan to connect. In fact, they already have an estimate from J.W. Dubas. The property is, however, at its closest point is about 400 feet away from Oyster Pond Furlong, and the furthest house is a couple of hundred feet further. So it will be a complex undertaking, not to mention an expensive one. So I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, if you wanted to speak, I'll stop.
No, I was just coughing.
Oh, you're allowed to do that, although Dr. Edwards and Dr. Ward can perhaps provide medical attention if that's necessary. Okay. In any event, the Naddises absolutely want to connect. As I indicated, they have an estimate, but there are a couple of complexities here. The good news is that, and Judy has in the files, 3 septic inspection reports for the 3 systems serving the property, and all 3 passed. So we don't have any immediate dangers to public health or anything like that. But the notices are appropriately concerned that the property is under a connection order which has at least technically expired. To make it somewhat more complex, although they are not buying the property, either of the two properties, with plans to rent the property, if they close, which they hope to do at the end of May, they will be acquiring the houses subject to some summer rentals, which the current owners have already negotiated. They're willing to do that, but they frankly would like your approval, which may not be unreasonable in light of the fact that the 3 septic systems are all functioning and in good shape. To make matters a little bit more complex, as you are all aware, the real estate market and the related engineering and contracting fields are all swamped with work. So we would ask for a further extension, if the board would consider it, until the end of the year. Now, ordinarily, 6 months from closing is the appropriate time to make upgrades to a septic system. This isn't an upgrade, but it's sort of a similar situation. So 6 months from the end of May would take us to the end of November, and we would be asking for 1 more month until the end of the year. Couple of reasons for that, other than the contractors and installers and engineers all being busy. The fact that the property is subject to rental agreements during July and August would make it essentially impossible to do the work during the summer. So if the board would grant the request on behalf of the new owners, not the folks who currently own the property, we would be most appreciative and certainly be happy to answer any questions. And I believe, as I said, John and Stephen or other family members are on the call and they can join in. But we thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Questions or comments from Board of Health members?
Yeah, this is Noble. Yeah, I had a process question. So we gave a 6-month extension at our meeting August 17th. And so they were supposed to come back in February. Are they usually notified by the health department, or should they have come back on their own? This is the owner, the current owner. And the other question is, the variance is being requested not by the owner. The variance is being requested by the prospective buyers. And but if we grant a variance, the variance goes to the owner, I believe. So, but it's just a process question for Judy a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, we usually would have contacted them in February to put them on the agenda. We missed it. We didn't get them on, knowing the property was still for sale. We didn't do it. And what was your other question about?
Oh, the variance, the request is being made by the prospective buyers, but the variance that we grant today actually goes to the owner.
Right, it would go to
so
the
the reason
owner.
I asked the question is, this has been a 4-year thing where they've had extensions, and I question giving another extension to the owner for a year with the way things have gone in the past. So that's my other concern.
Right. I mean, I agree. I mean, giving them, if say the sale fell through, the extension would still exist unless we put some type of a condition on it that said that if these people don't buy it, then the owners need to proceed with the connection. As Bill said, it's going to take time to actually get this done with the crazy busy schedules of the engineers right now and the contractors. But we could some conditions that we need to get plans within, say 3 months or so, 3 to 6 months, and then a completion at the end of the year, by the end of the year.
And then have some provision if the sale falls through, that we haven't granted this owner a 1-year extension with no, contingencies or nothing else.
Right. Well, it would still, we would still require them to do it whether the sale fell through or not.
Bill, John Beckley, how confident are you that this sale is going to close?
Bill Litchfield, Mr. Chairman, reasonably comfortable in saying that the Nattises have done a great amount of homework, far more than most folks would, even in fact, listening to your minutes of August 17th, 2020. So I feel comfortable that it is. I suppose that the board could grant the variance contingent on the transaction. While it's ordinarily the case that variances go with properties rather than owners, the board has the ability, I believe, due to changed circumstances, i.e. the sale did not conclude, the board would have authority of its own accord to revisit any decision that it might make today. So the Nattises, there's no question about their willingness to commit. I understand the board's frustration with this property and others like it where people have not connected. But I think that you would have the ability to address that in the event that this transaction did not occur.
Yeah. Bill, this is Ron Broman. I have a question. What would happen if we waited until these people own the property and have them back at that time?
Well, I thank you, Mr. Chairman, Bill Litchfield. I sort of anticipated Ron's question, and I was going to suggest that, well, we might come back to you on whatever the first Monday in June is, June whatever it is, and ask for it. But frankly, if I were the Nattises, I would be concerned about that. I understand why you might like to be dealing with the current owner. Certainly, we have standing to request the variance. So I think from the Nattises' point of view, that degree of uncertainty wouldn't be terribly comforting. They'd like to know that they do have the 7 months roughly from closing to do the connection. So I understand the point, but I think the Nattises would be more comfortable if they knew going in. It's sort of a chicken and egg thing. Do they wait to have security before they close? And if they don't do that, they might be hesitant to close.
And I could add that the sewer connection regulation does say that if there's a transfer of the property, the connection should be made within 30 days of the transfer. So obviously that's not going to happen.
Judy, just Noble, another process question. So if the property transfers and they haven't hooked up, then is the septic system considered failed so that the property can't be used? The septic system can't be used? That's partly an issue brought up, I guess, with the summer rentals. But normally what happens?
Yeah, I mean, we would, under a circumstance where they had just ignored us and not asked for extensions and such, we would call it a failed system, even though it's really technically not, because we would want the assurance that they were going to connect instead of just using the septic system. So, in this case, we're trying to get the assurance that they connect within a set time frame. But the systems can be used. They've been inspected and they're working properly.
Right. So are we ready to venture a motion here that would essentially grant the variance request contingent upon the sale of the house and carrying with it an obligation to submit within 90 days of the closing plans for the connection, with the expectation that the connection would be made in full no later than the end of the calendar year?
This is Noble. And is there some language we can put in so that if the sale fell through, we haven't just granted this house another 1-year extension?
Yes.
I don't know, is there a time period for when the sale is supposed to occur, closing date?
I believe it is the end of the month, Dr. Cathcart, and either Mr. Natus could join us and confirm that.
End of May?
Hi, this is Stephen Natus. Thanks everybody for your time today. It is the end of May, May 28th, I think May 28th, as it stands right now.
All right. Well, this is a little bit tricky, but I think we ought to be able to frame a motion that allows what we're planning to allow contingent upon the sale of the property, and then add a subsequent aspect to the motion that says, in the event that the home sale is not, does not go through, the current property owners will be required to come back before the board.
Yeah, I like that language.
Something such as that.
And put a date, doesn't close by the end of June, say, a month past the expected date. Is that something that seems to work?
If I could, Mr. Chairman, what Mr. Cathcart said is exactly precise, because the ordinary purchase and sale agreement has a provision that the extension can be, the transaction can be continued for up to 30 days. So Noble's suggestion of the end of June would be entirely palatable. The only other point I would make is that I can't guarantee that the engineer can produce plans within 90 days. The natives certainly intend for that to happen, but I suspect we could, I could contact the Board of Health if those plans are delayed. But there's every intent to have them produced.
All right, that would be what I would hope, is that you'd come back before the board if in fact that 90-day target is not reachable for some reason.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman.
Does somebody want to give lay out a motion?
Sorry to,
I'll accept that emotion.
sorry to interrupt. This is Stephen Natus. I just had one other point to make. In listening to the meeting minutes from last August, and Bill mentioned this, you were evaluating whether or not to let the current owners rent the property. And you made a decision that you were going to reevaluate in February when they came back to you. Obviously, that did not happen. And we currently, at 100 Oyster Pond, have rentals for July and August. As Bill said, we're not planning to rent this out in the future. So I wouldn't say we're attached to the rentals, but we do want to make sure that you're okay with the rentals, and we don't want to have rentals at our property that the board did not approve. So that is something we would like your thoughts on as well, if you consider that.
And they would help pay for the project too.
Right. Correct.
Yeah, this is Noble. I would say we talked about not allowing it to be used as a way to get this sewer hookup to proceed.
Right.
So under these circumstances, with an owner coming in and the whole situation being resolved, I think it would be reasonable to let rentals occur this summer.
Got it. Thank you.
That's my opinion.
Are the board members okay with
I
that?
think that's a fit. Ron Broman, that's a fit, yeah.
Okay, I agree. All right, so do we have a motion on the table right now?
John, do you want to put the motion in words, and then I'll make the motion based on what you say? Or you want me to try to put it together?
Yeah.
Okay, I make a motion that we allow a variance on the sewer hookup at this property for 1 year, contingent on the new buyer closing being by the end of June. And we ask that they come back in 90 days for plans of the new septic hookup. And if they can't do it in 90 days, they would notify the board. And we would allow rentals, the existing rentals, to occur this summer on the property. Have I forgotten anything?
Yes, and then the final point would be, in the event that this sale does not go through, the current property owners would be required to come before the board and discuss future plans to connect the property to the sewer.
Right, I would add that, and I guess that would occur. We'd have to put a time frame on that. That would be at the time the property falls,
Yes.
the sale does not, the falls through or does not occur, the sale does not occur.
Exactly. All right, Judy, do we have that?
This is Dick Edwards. Did we say we wanted it to be a variance for 1 year or a variance till the end of the calendar year?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
I would say to the end of this calendar year is what I had in mind.
Right, I thought that's what we,
I was just based on what Attorney Litchfield asked for, actually.
he asked for the end of the calendar year.
Okay, then we should certainly do that.
Yep, that sounds good to me.
And we have you have the motion captured in writing, Judy.
Diane, do you have it? I think between Diane and I, we have it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, I've got it all over the place here. I'm sure we can get it together.
All right, so can I have a motion and a second on the motion?
Noble, I make the motion.
Okay, can I get a second?
I'll second it, Ron Broman.
Okay, Ron seconded. Any other members of the public want to speak on this before the Board of Health votes? Hearing none. Okay, I'll call the question. When I call your name, please indicate how you vote on the motion before the board. Dr. Noble Hanson,
Approve?
Ron Broman,
Approve.
Ed Sheehan,
Approve.
Carol Boyce,
Approve.
and I vote to approve. So we've got the 5 votes right there. So the motion carries. So let's hope that this is the end of this saga, because we've been talking about this property for quite a long while.
We thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Bill Litchfield. Thank you to you, Judy, and the members of the board. We appreciate it, as do the Natises. And with all due respect, I know you'll understand that when I say we don't want to meet or talk to you about this property ever again, I'm sure you feel the same way. So.
Very nice. And I wish the Nattises the very best with the property. You've got a spectacular spot there.
Thank you for that. And we are committed to get this done. So thank you for your consideration.
Very well. All right, good. Okay, that's the first item on the agenda done. Let's go to item number 2, which is a variance hearing and approval of IA Technology for Ann Harmon Lewis Trust of the Ann Harmon Lewis Revocable Trust. This property is at 75 Hillcrest Road, and the applicant is Coastal Engineering. Are you representing Coastal tonight?
I am. If you see me, I'm here.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
We see you and we hear you.
Wonderful. Yes, Ann Lewis has a beautiful piece of property, and she is not changing anything in the footprint. However, she was looking to have a pool and some landscaping done, and the septic system is a pre-95 system for 4 bedrooms, and it is in the area where we want to put the pool. So in looking at it, there was another thing they were looking at was having a 5th bedroom. They have, under the old code, they have 4 bedrooms plus a sitting room, and they want to, actually make that sitting room considered the 5th bedroom. So then they would have 5 bedrooms legally. So that's what we've done. We've redesigned the system with IA Technology and placed the leaching system in where the new driveway is. And it is a system that is reduced in size, which is allowed, and it's at 50%. And what we've done is actually provide pressure distribution for the effluent. So essentially, looking at that, it works out very nicely as far as nitrogen. For 4 bedrooms for that size lot, about 33,000 square feet, it's about 7.5 parts per million for 4 bedrooms. And then it's been with the IA Technology, the FAST system, it will be 5.5 parts per million. So it'll actually be a reduction of 33%. So that's, we're requesting this variance under the nutrient management, nutrient management regulations that you have. And then it does allow for a 5th bedroom if you provide IA technology. So there is no wetlands nearby. It's, it's a good 200, 300 feet away. And really, it's not in a zone 2. So we find that we think this is an ideal candidate for this IA technology and the allowance for a 5th bedroom. And that's it.
All right, questions or comments from Board of Health members for John? Looks pretty straightforward to me. Is this swimming pool a lap pool?
It's a little bigger than that. It is kind of a long pool. Let me see what the size. I didn't really measure the size. Let's see here. I'll tell you in a second. Yeah, it's 10 by 35. And it has a little hot tub with it. Sauna. So 10 by 35. I guess that's a lap pool, kind of. You can 2 people probably could swim. Do laps.
Yeah. Well, this is pretty straightforward in my mind. There is the reduction in the impact of the effluent on the groundwater. I like that. No wetland consideration, and the applicants are willing to invest in the IA technology. So I'm perfectly fine with the proposal. Any other board members want to raise any concerns or make additional comments?
This is Noble. I agree with what you said. I had a question that, just for Judy, we know that this is an approved 4-bedroom house currently, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, well, can I get a motion to?
Can I ask a question?
You certainly can.
Is there what was the original leaching field like in this? This is a fairly small leaching.
Yeah, well,
what do they call it? A leaching something? Leach chamber.
Leach chambers. Yep. Well, the original system there is a septic tank and 2 leaching pits right in the area where the swimming pool is going. So that's when we came up with this design to allow the 5th bedroom, and then again, you can reduce the size of the leaching facility by 50% by providing an IA technology, which we've done. And then it also has to be, can't be gravity feed or pressure dose system. It has to be pressure distribution. Okay, and that's right in the code. So that's what we've done. So, it meets those requirements.
So the board members do have a memo from Judy recommending the applicant be approved and that the system would comply with the current regulation. So we do have conditions that would have to be read with any approval motion. We have 9 different conditions that Judy outlines in her memo of April 27th to the board. Can I get a motion to approve?
This is Noble. I make a motion to approve the request for variance with Judy reading the conditions to the record.
Can I get a second for that?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Carol. All right. Anybody from the public wish to comment before the Board of Health considers this motion? Any final comments from anyone before we vote? Okay, when I call your name, please indicate.
John,
how-
do you want me to read the conditions?
Thank you.
Yeah, quickly, yep. I think they're usually the common ones, right? So,
Yeah,
Yes.
well,
Judy,
yeah,
thank you
John,
for
John
reminding me.
Beckley, I do, I'll read them.
Okay.
The applicant should restrict the property to a maximum of 5 bedrooms and record this restriction on the deed at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds. The applicant shall sign a covenant with the board agreeing to comply at such time as the town of Chatham through its Board of Health and/or Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners directs the connection of this property to the municipal sewer when it becomes available. And this covenant shall be recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds. Throughout its life, the system shall be under an operation and maintenance agreement. The operation and maintenance agreement shall be for at least 1 year and may be with any mass certified operator and appropriate grade that has received training by the company. Effluent from the system shall be monitored at least 2 times per year for the first 2 years, preferably May and October. The effluent shall be field tested in accordance with the Mass DEP standard conditions for secondary treatment units certified for general use, revised March 20th, 2015. In addition, a lab test for the effluent for total nitrogen to meet the performance standard of 19 milligrams per liter shall be collected and analyzed by a certified lab. Water meter readings are to be provided with the semi-annual report. If any of the field tests or lab tests fail, follow-up tests shall be conducted by a certified lab and an evaluation made by the operator within 30 days. After the required 2 years testing, application can be made to the board or their agent for review and possible modification of the monitoring requirements. The applicant agrees to apply a minimum of 6 inches of compacted topsoil to all disturbed areas of the property. The engineer shall submit an engineered as-built plan, including as-built elevations with a written certification that the system has been installed in accordance with the approved plan. No alteration to the floor plan of the dwelling or the engineer site plan will be allowed without further review by the board or its agent. This variance is granted pursuant to the State Environmental Code Title V and the Town of Chatham Subsurface Sewage Regulation and is valid for 1 year from the date of the Board of Health approval. A permit must be issued and work commenced during this 1 year period or the variance shall expire.
Thank you, Judy. Okay, let's go ahead and call a question. When I call your name, please indicate how you vote on the motion. Dr. Noble Hanson,
Approve?
Ron Broman,
Approve.
Ed Sheehan,
No.
no. Carol Boyce,
Approve.
and I approve, John Beckley. So we have 4 votes to approve, 1 to oppose, so the motion does carry and the variance is approved. You're good to go, John.
well, thank you so much for hearing it and have a good night.
You too.
Thank you, John.
Take care.
Next item on the agenda is item 3, which is an update and a discussion regarding COVID-19 with Dr. Robert Duncanson, Director of Health and Natural Resources. Bob?
Good afternoon, everybody. So, for this week's update, right now, or as of yesterday afternoon in Barnstable County, we were at 13,573 cases, which is an increase of 26 cases from the day before. And there have been 461 deaths in Barnstable County, which was an increase of none from the day before, as well as an increase of none since the board met last Monday as well. In Chatham right now, or as of April 30th, we had a total of 320 cases in Chatham. There has been 1 case so far in May, but I'm using, I'll show you some graphs here, and I'm using April 30th as the date on those figures. So let me share my screen.
How many deaths, Bob?
We are currently at 30 deaths since the pandemic began here in Chatham.
Thank you.
So hopefully you can all see the graph right now of Chatham's confirmed cases. And this is monthly since March of 2020, when the pandemic officially began. You can see the spike that we started to have at the end of last year carried over into January of this year. And then the little mini spike, if you will, that we saw back in March of this year. And then things so far in April have dropped off fairly dramatically. We had a total of 15 cases in April. And so far we've had, as I said, 1 case in May. And hopefully this drop in cases will continue as we go forward. So switching over to the age distribution of cases in Chatham. Here's where we're currently at, and you can see, and this has been pretty true for the last couple of months, that the age demographic is pretty well leveling out, with all the various age groups being right around 10% or so, some being a little higher. If you remember back, last spring, last summer, and into the fall, we saw a huge shift where most of our cases were in the older demographics. That has now leveled out with what we're seeing now, being more cases in the younger demographics. And just to show you that on a statewide basis, here's the most recent accounting from the state. And this was as of last Thursday. Of the roughly 20,000 cases in the previous 2 weeks statewide, you can see that the 2 largest demographics on a percentage basis are the 20 to 29-year-olds and the 30 to 39-year-olds.
Wow.
And that's, that's consistent with what we're seeing in Chatham as well. We're definitely seeing that shift to the younger demographic, which, makes a lot of sense. The older demographics were the first ones to be afforded the vaccine back at the end of December and into January. And then gradually, the age demographic or the availability of vaccine has widened to now basically anyone 16 years of age and older can get the vaccine. So here's a graph which shows the last 2 reporting periods for vaccinations. So the bottom graph is as it was on April 20th, and then the upper figure is as of April 27th. There's really been no change in the 75 years of age and older, although, there's been a little bit of a shift to a greater proportion of that age group being fully vaccinated versus partially vaccinated. And we saw the same thing in the 65 to 74-year-olds, which makes sense considering those 2 groups have really been the ones that have been able to get the vaccine for the longest period. We did see a substantial uptick in the folks in the 50 to 64-year-old age demographic, as well as a shift to more of that group being in the fully vaccinated category. And then we've also seen, shifts now in the 2 younger demographics, the 30 to 49-year-old and the 20 to 29-year-old, because they are now able to get the vaccine. And we saw a very slight uptick in the youngest demographic, the 0 to 19s, because again, the vaccine is only available primarily to those 16 years of age and older. There's a lot of research going on in vaccine trials with the younger demographic, and I expect it in relatively short order. We may hear that the Pfizer vaccine is now available for ages 12 and up, although that hasn't come out officially yet. But so far, all the data is indicating that the vaccine is highly effective as well as very safe in that age group. So I expect that, over the coming weeks and months, we will see the vaccine age availability gradually lowered and lowered with the goal of trying to get all school-age children to be vaccinated over the summer in anticipation of fully in-school learning taking place next fall. And then the final graph that I just wanted to show here quickly, this is our average daily incident rate. Let me scroll that up a little bit here so you can see it. And again, we're down substantially from the second peak that we saw in March and into early April. We remain in the gray zone here in Chatham with the weekly data that comes out. Remember, this data only comes out weekly on Thursdays. And so as of last Thursday and the Thursday before that, Chatham had dropped back into the gray zone, which is the lowest of the four categories the state has: gray, green, yellow, and red. There are still several towns, or at least one town on the Cape, that was in the red zone as of last week, but many of the others that were in the red zone kind of back in March and April have dropped back into the yellow zone or lower. Our 14-day positivity rate, percent positivity as of last Thursday, was 0.86%, which is great. The Barnstable County rate was at 3.4%. The statewide average for 14-day positivity was 2.01. The statewide 7-day positivity rate was actually less than 2, which is great. It was about 1.86. That obviously changes on a much more rapid basis, if you will, than the 14-day positivity rate. And so that is all good news, indicating that we are both on the Cape as well as throughout the state coming out of that kind of mini surge that we saw earlier this year. So, and with vaccination rates continuing to go up, that's pretty much what we would expect. The governor did make some announcements regarding vaccinations earlier today. As of today, the state had administered 1.2 million doses of vaccine, and about 500,000 Massachusetts residents are considered fully vaccinated, meaning that 14 days have passed since they either received the single dose J&J vaccine or they had received their second dose of either the Pfizer or Moderna. And that percentage will go up as more people get their second dose of the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine, and then that 14-day period passes, and they basically move into the fully vaccinated category. The governor also announced today that, as you probably are aware, there are 7 state mass vaccination sites. Facilities like the Heinz Convention Center, Gillette Stadium, in Dartmouth and other locations. By the end of June, the state expects to close 4 of those sites. So there will be 3 large mass vaccination sites that will be staying open, but they will be slowly transitioning to close 4 of those mass vaccination sites, with efforts shifting now more towards the local level. They're finding that, a lot of people are going to regional clinics, going to their individual pharmacies, going to community health centers. So the state is going to be shifting more and more of the vaccine to those venues as opposed to the state mass vaccination sites, now that, for want of a better term, we're kind of over the major hump of getting the large majority of the at-risk population vaccinated. Because that's what, Massachusetts really was aiming to do, is get the high-risk populations vaccinated as quickly as possible. And I think the data bears out that that's been pretty successfully done. So if anybody still needs, or has a family member that still needs to get a vaccine, the best way to go about it is to go to vaxfinder.mass.gov, and that has a listing of all the sites in the state, and you can search by zip code, and so it brings up not only the mass vaccination sites, the community health center sites, the regional clinics, but it also brings up things like locations like your local CVS and Walgreens and Stop and Shop, and it indicates whether or not they have vaccine availability. You can search not only by zip code, but also by whether or not they actually have appointments available. I searched earlier this afternoon using the Chatham zip code, and there were honestly multiple sites in Chatham, in Harwich, in Brewster, and all So people no longer have to drive long distances, to get either to a county site or a mass vaccination site. There is significant availability locally here on Cape Cod. So I urge everyone or anyone who has not taken advantage of that to do so and get vaccinated. Because we all know we've only got about 40% or so of residents in the US vaccinated so far. We need to get that up higher to achieve, the so-called herd immunity. Although those percentages are higher here in Massachusetts, and that's what led to the governor moving forward with some of the changes that were announced at the end of last week, in terms of things further opening up on May 10th, the change in the mask guidance that occurred last Friday, and then the governor's goal to try to get everything open by August 1st or sooner, if conditions and vaccinations continue to move along the way they are. So I think for right now, that's all I've got. I'm sure we'll talk more about the mask mandate in the next item of discussion. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, John.
Thank you, Bob. I would just second what you said, that my daughter was 16 years old today. And I went on the system and I got her into the Chatham CVS with multiple choices. So she's going tonight at 5:30 to get her first dose of Pfizer, but it was very easy.
Yep.
Any additional comments, questions for?
Yeah, Ron Bowman, I have a question for Dr. Duncanson. You mentioned the Pfizer for the younger people. Is the Moderna also going to be in the same running with them?
That's still being looked at. They're still in clinical trials with some of the younger age groups. So, yeah, the expectation is that both the Pfizer and Moderna will be able to come out for younger people here, hopefully in the not too distant future. But I can't give you exact dates. I know the Pfizer one is, I believe, closer to that than the Moderna is at this point.
Okay, thank you.
This is Noble. I'm going to bring up something in way of the discussion of COVID. I'm a member of the parade committee as well, but I'm just speaking for myself here, not for the committee. But we had a meeting last Friday, and the parade committee voted to make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen to go ahead and cancel the 4th of July parade, the real parade. That would allow the parade committee to move forward with its plans to put on a virtual parade. I think that, I don't know if it's something we want to discuss or other people have comments, but the question comes up, should the 4th of July parade be canceled now? Should you wait for more information? The chief of police felt very firmly that the parade is either all or nothing. Either we put on the traditional parade with 30,000 people or whatever it's going to be, probably more crowded this year, or we have no parade. There's no way to do it in between. So it raises the practical question of whether the Board of Health would want to make a recommendation that could go to the selectmen, and then the selectmen could kind of move ahead. And Bob knows more about this, I think, probably.
Yeah, just to follow up on what Noble just said, the board, the selectmen, town manager, myself, and others, we're working on setting up a community forum similar to what was done last year, to touch on some of these topics about what happens, over the summer with some of these events. It looks like that is going to be potentially scheduled for next week. Because of the Independence Day Parade Committee's recommendation. People were feeling there's no sense dragging it out any longer. That the sooner those kind of decisions can be made. Because what Noble's referring to is the governor's guidance for large scale events like parades and fireworks, is that they be basically capped at 50% of the previous year's spectator estimate Well, we all know that there's no way, A, to get a good estimate of how many spectators there were. And then how would you ever police 50%? You know, because it's a parade or fireworks. You know, it's not like people are entering a defined stadium or something like that where you can get an accurate head count. So, you know, Mark Polina and I, the chief of police, had discussed that. And I think we were both in agreement as well that, you know, the parade really needs to be an all or nothing. And that was the discussion, and that is the recommendation from the parade committee's meeting on Friday. You know, I think we also want to have a similar discussion about band concerts. You know, again, how would you ever manage to limit them to 50%? Is it first come, first served? Is it, you know, what? So it just, you know, those kind of capacity limitations for those kind of, you know, outdoor events don't really, you know, aren't easily handled logistically. So I think, but anyway, so that's going to be the discussion hopefully next week, and there'll be more to come on that. And I think it probably will be a joint Board of Health, Board of Selectmen, you know, discussion, if you will, but gathering input from the community, from the public about how they feel about some of these events. So I think certainly if the board feels strongly on the parade or, you know, things like band concerts, being able to provide that, you know, a recommendation ahead of time would be very helpful.
This is Noble again. Yeah, the 4th of July parade is the big one. The other ones maybe are not quite as big. I think part of the governor's order was also that if you're putting on some kind of festival or event, that event has to come up with a safety plan that's submitted to the Board of Health beforehand as well. So that's another aspect of all that. But I just wanted to bring that because I'm on the other committee and that's out there now.
This is Dick Edwards. Do we have the same problem with the baseball games?
The Cape League, yes. And we've had a number of meetings. We had one meeting just with the Chatham A's about a month ago. There's been 2 subsequent meetings with health agents from all the towns on the Cape that have Cape League teams. The most recent one being last Wednesday. And we've asked, meaning the larger group of health agents, have asked the Cape League to get some clarity from the state as to which category they would be considered in. Whether they would be considered in the large venue category, like Fenway Park, Gillette Stadium, and others that are currently going to be limited to 25% capacity, or would the Cape League games be considered under the kind of event venue, which has that cap of 250 outdoors? And so as of last Wednesday, the league still hadn't gotten a definitive, clarified answer from the state, but we encouraged them to seek that. You know, again, and the Cape League is working internally on their own, and they've provided us at the local level with basically a draft of their COVID management plan, if you will, which specifies, you know, how they're going to manage their players, their coaches, their things like that, how they're going to deal with some of the other things like food venues, food vending. You know, some of them sell, you know, have a little store that they sell memorabilia and jerseys and all from. So they are working on that, as you're probably aware, because it was in the paper last week. They have delayed the start of the Cape League season to June 20th. It was originally slated, I think, for June 12th. They've delayed it to June 20th to try to work out some of these issues, get some more clarity. But they are working on their own plans with the goal of having the Cape League up and running this summer.
Right, but in Chatham, it's similar to the parade. You know, you can put X's on the seats in the stands, but
Right.
How are you going to limit the number of people that crowd in to the side of the hill behind center field? That's going to be, I mean, you know, you'd have to have an awful lot of police out there trying to limit that crowd.
Right, yeah, we've had those very kind of discussions, and that's where we're asking the league to talk with the state and find out, exactly what kind of numbers they might be held to. Just because not only in Chatham, but similar to Orleans, Orleans doesn't have any bleachers at all. They just sit on the embankment and all. And so how would you manage that, police that, if you were under some kind of capacity limitation? So that's where we're really, looking to the league to go to the state and get that clarification as to what kind of numbers might it be. And then if it is a capacity limitation, how is the league, how are the individual teams going to try to manage that? Are they not going to let people sit on the embankment? And that's what we're asking them to come up with, because it's not necessarily appropriate for the town or for the Board of Health to tell them how to do it. It's for them to come up with a plan that we could then review and pass by you guys to say, all right, this is how the league is proposing to do this. And so hopefully we're going to get more information later this week, because we really have been pushing the league to reach out to the state, as well as reach out to the Cape Cod Reopening Task Force and Senator Sear and that group. Because, let's face it, the Cape League is also part of the economy of the Cape in the summer. And so to lose that again for a second season, wouldn't be great. So we've asked them to reach out through that venue as well to try to get, some clarity from the state and the regional task force as to, how can this be made to work given the potential limitations that the governor has outlined.
Can I ask in regard to risk, do you have any numbers on the incidence of breakthrough infections on Cape Cod and in Massachusetts in fully vaccinated people? And what percentage of those breakthrough infections cause serious illness?
I don't have any specific information on breakthrough cases in Chatham or in Barnstable. The information that we have heard is there's been about 6,000 cases nationwide of breakthrough. The one thing that seems to be coming out in those cases is when they do occur, the illness is significantly less severe, and the chances of hospitalization and severe illness is also significantly reduced. So, it's just another reason why getting the vaccine is so critical. The vaccine may not prevent disease, but it definitely, based on all the data we're seeing, is preventing severe disease and hospitalizations. John, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Any further questions or comments on COVID-19 by Board of Health members?
Yeah, this is Noble. So I would just say the question out there is, with the parade committee having made its recommendation to cancel the parade, should the Board of Health, should we just wait for the forum, or is there a reason to make a recommendation now? I mean, I think you could do it either way.
I don't know. Let's hear what Board of Health members think. I think it's perfectly logical to cancel it now, early, because I agree completely with what was said earlier about you can't do it halfway. So
Yeah,
I don't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I do.
What was that, Ed?
I go along with the right.
With the.
Yeah. Is that, Ron Brummel, is that just to close down the parade? You're talking only the parade. Okay. I didn't know if you're still talking about baseball. Okay.
Noble, do you think it would be helpful for the Board of Health to weigh in with a vote to endorse the cancellation of the parade? You think that would be?
I mean, I think it's our choice. I would ask Bob if would it in any way impede what this forum is going to be about next week if we make such a recommendation, or would it be good or bad for the forum?
I don't think it would impede the forum in any way, shape, or form. I think it's perfectly appropriate, as others have stated, for the board to take a position. And I think honestly, if you took the position now and that was transmitted to the board and whatnot before the forum, I think it would be helpful. I think, that's pretty much what I think the parade committee was thinking as well, because you guys, I know, you guys want to get on with your planning for the virtual one as soon as you can. So I think if the board feels strongly, having that in hand before the forum would be helpful.
Yeah, so I would support making the recommendation if that's, I'd appreciate comments from other board members.
Now, what about the band concert? Who is going to determine if the band concerts proceed?
That I suspect will be another topic at the forum.
So we could include a recommendation regarding the band concerts as well. Because a
if this
band
board,
concert is essentially a parade.
yes, if this board has a position, and you could do two separate motions. You could do one for the band and one for the band concert and one for the parade, or you could do it as one. But I think if the board has a position on the band concerts, one way or the other, it's not inappropriate for you guys to go ahead and make a motion, take a vote, and then transmit that to the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, there's no, I think that the 4th of July parade to me is an obvious thing that should be canceled now, because it's hard to imagine that going on. My own thought would be something like the band concerts. I would have them come to us with a plan and then see if it's workable or not, but at least give them the opportunity, because I know the band, I think, very much would like to put something on this summer, and I would give them the chance to come up with a plan or a suggestion and then go from there, but not cancel that event, at this time. That would be my feeling. Just the parade is the obvious one.
This is John. I would agree with what Noble just said. I think the band idea might have more potential to be worked out. And I think we ought to be open-minded on that for now. So I would prefer that we pass a motion to recommend cancellation of the parade, the 4th of July parade, tonight.
This is Ron Brumman. I just want to say one thing about the band concert. That would be an easier area for them to control, the population. If
Yes.
they have to.
Possibly.
Yeah.
There would be ways to do that if you wanted to.
Yeah, right.
Well, what do the other board members think? Are you comfortable voting to recommend cancellation of the 4th of July parade?
Well,
Carol,
She and I do.
okay.
Ron Brumman, I do.
this is Carol. I would recommend canceling the 4th of July parade
Okay.
and do it today.
All right. Alan, Dr. Ward, are you on?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. What's your sense on that?
I agree.
Okay. And Dick Edwards, Dr. Edwards? you
Yes,
okay?
yeah, I agree. I think the parade should be canceled. And the band concert, we can wait. The band concert does provide a lot of economic drive. So
Yes.
if there's a way to continue it, it would be good.
Okay. All right. Noble?
Okay, Noble, yeah, I'll make a motion that the Board of Health tonight makes a recommendation that the 4th of July parade be canceled.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Ron Brumman, second. Ron Brumman.
Okay. Does the dog want a second?
Dog wants a bone.
All right. Any further discussion on the motion? Anybody from the public wish to comment before the Board of Health votes on the motion? Hearing none, when I call your name, please indicate how you vote on the motion. Dr. Noble Hanson,
Approve?
Ron Broman,
Approve.
Ed Sheehan,
Approve.
Carol Boyce,
Approve.
and I vote to approve. Okay, so that motion has been passed, and Judy will convey that accordingly. All right, let's move the agenda to item number 4, which is a discussion regarding the Board of Health face covering policy.
Okay, John, if you'd like, I'll kind of start it off and then turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you.
As the board is aware, you passed a face covering order, a declaration of public health emergency order. You passed it back in May of last year, and it was amended on June 1st and July 20th, and it took effect on Thursday, July 23rd. And basically, that order requires any member of the public to wear a face covering between certain hours on Main Street from the Rotary to School Street, at Lighthouse Beach Overlook and the stairs leading down to Lighthouse Beach, on the Fish Pier observation deck, and at the transfer station. And there was also a fine schedule attached with that. Individuals were allowed to remove their mask while actively eating and drinking, but you had to be stationary and maintain at least 6 feet from other individuals not in your immediate family unit. So that order is still in effect and has not been changed. Now, on Friday, the governor, through COVID order number 67, amended the state's face covering requirement and basically reverted back to what was in place last summer in the Commonwealth, which indicated that any individual over the age of 5 was required to wear a face covering or a mask anytime they are indoors in a public location and outdoors in a public location if they were unable to maintain 6 feet or social distance from anyone not in their immediate household unit, or if it's required by other specific requirements. So that was the change. Prior to that, the governor had mandated that everyone needed to wear a face mask outdoors or indoors, irregardless of whether or not they could social distance. So that has now been relaxed to indicate you need to wear that mask outdoors when you cannot social distance. And then in addition, face coverings are still required at all times at all events or gatherings in public locations. And they are encouraged for wearing in private homes, but they are no longer required. And also the governor eliminated the fine of up to $300, which was previously part of the previous face covering order. So that's what changed statewide as of Friday, but your face covering order is still in place at the 4 locations that I mentioned. And if you recall, one of the reasons why you guys put that in place, or the board put that in place last summer, was the consensus that social distancing was difficult, if not impossible, in those locations. So on Main Street, in the downtown business core, the Fish Pier observation deck, lighthouse overlooking stairs, and at the transfer station. I will tell you that I spoke to the director of DPW earlier today to get his thoughts on whether or not he would like to see any change in the face covering order at the transfer station. And he indicated he would not. He'd like to still continue to see face coverings mandated at the transfer station, you know, for at least the next couple of weeks, months, depending on how things go. Because, you know, folks are still tight when they're at the, you know, the main transfer station building, throwing their trash in, but especially in the recycling area, people still, you know, can't always maintain social distance in those areas. So his recommendation is to maintain that at the transfer station for the time being. And so with that, I will turn it back over to you, John.
Thank you, Bob. I'm all ears to hear what other board members are thinking about this. I do think we have some time, but this is an important call for us in terms of whether we want to maintain the existing orders and go into this summer keeping things as they are now, or whether we think the environment is different enough to warrant a relaxation of that order. Because you could make an argument both ways, I think, on this. What I don't think we should be doing is flipping back and forth with it. So I would say we should not reduce or remove the order until we're really comfortable and confident that the conditions have changed and will continue to be changed through the summer season. So with that, I'm all ears to hear Noble, you, Carol, Dick. Does anybody want to offer?
Yeah, this is Dick Edwards. I think for the same reason we want to cancel the parade. We should continue the face masks through Labor Day at least. But I have one proviso, and that is, if we did that, then we would basically be closing down places that have food to go. So like an ice cream parlor in Chatham, how do you walk down the street eating an ice cream cone with a mask on? So can we make an exception that allows people, walking on the street, to eat, to not have a mask when they're eating, as long as they make an attempt to maintain 6 feet
I think
from people.
We have that now. We have that, Dick, in our existing mask order. We amended it.
Of course, we do.
I think we do, and I know we do. We had it, and Bob mentioned it a moment ago. We have a provision in our current mask requirement that waives the requirement for people who are actively, and I don't know whether we have them having to sit down at a bench and just find a spot where they can go eat. I don't think we want people walking around. Bob, do you remember what the wording was regarding?
Yes. Yes, the actual wording states, and this was what the board put in last summer. Face coverings required by this order may be removed while actively eating or drinking, but you should be stationary and maintain appropriate 6 feet or greater physical distancing from persons not in your immediate family unit. Because really, we didn't want people walking down the street with their mask down, eating an ice cream cone or drinking from a cup of coffee. If they wanted to do that, they really needed to be in one spot, stay there until they finish, and then they can go on and about their business.
Thank you. That satisfies you, Dick?
Yes, yeah, I think with that provision, then I would just extend it through Labor Day at least.
What are other board members think?
Ron Broman, and I'd like to say, Labor Day and after Labor Day here especially in Chatham, there's still a lot of people down here. I think we should extend it a little bit further before we look at doing away with it. Maybe October 1st or somewhere like that.
Columbus Day.
Yeah, even Columbus Day, right? Yeah, it's always busy down Chatham.
So Ron, your gut feeling on this is that we keep the mask order in effect.
Yeah, definitely, yes.
Through the summer season. Carol, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we should maintain the existing orders at least through Labor Day, if not longer.
Noble?
Yeah, I think we should continue the current mask rules And I wouldn't put a date on it. I would just say, we are not going to rescind it now, and we're going to review it at each meeting briefly and see when we think the time is right. I would also say there was one letter from a well-known downtown business, which very strongly asked us to maintain the mask mandate, saying that it actually makes it easier for them to run their business because they don't have to monitor people coming in without masks. They already have masks. And they think it's a safe thing through the busy summer, which I think says the businesses would like us to, or at least there's one, like us to keep the mask mandate.
Judy? Judy, your hand is up.
Yep, hold on.
Thank you.
Yep, sorry, John. I was gonna say what Noble just said, that we did get one letter from the Candy Manor. Did I forward that to the board members?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So, if you would like, I can read it into the record or not. But it is an excellent letter in support of keeping the mask mandate.
Yeah.
I would
Hey,
like you to,
Sheehan, I approve that.
Judy,
Yeah, I
could
think
you?
it's a very strong letter. I'd read it if we have time.
Okay, I can read it. It says, "Dear Board of Health, the Chatham Candy Manor is reaching out on behalf of our staff, community, and fellow small businesses to express our support and advocate for a continued mask mandate in relevant public areas through September 6, 2021, Labor Day."
Could you like more than just open it and kind of look?
Yeah, anyone, please, if people
Somebody
can.
mute their phone, please.
As we see our surrounding neighbors, states update and loosen their face covering mandates, and we see changes at the mass state level, it feels important to proactively prepare for the many visitors we anticipate this summer season. Lifting the mandate for outdoor areas will increase the need for businesses to have staff and resources dedicated to managing patrons while in line, entering, and while in store. After a year of updated processes to remain open while providing a safe experience for our staff and customers, this would be incredibly challenging and taxing for our small business to navigate. It would put the burden of explanation into individual businesses and individual staff members to communicate the policies of being indoors, while putting those staff members in a situation where they likely will not be able to socially distance while doing so. Additionally, in relevant public places, including Main Street, the Fish Pier, and parts of Lighthouse Beach, it is not possible to properly socially distance during the high traffic times. Since it is highly unlikely that continuation of the current policies will deter any visitors, we request that you consider supporting the following. 1, the mask mandate continue through September 6, 2021. 2, the large traffic signs at the Rotary entering downtown Chatham be utilized to reflect the mask mandate through September 6, 2021. With a diverse population of workers and patrons, including those under the age of 16, we feel it is imperative to prioritize the safety of our community and welfare of our businesses. We sincerely appreciate your time and consideration. The Chatham Candy Manor.
Thank you, Judy. That was a well-written letter, and we appreciate their input. Any other comments from any Board of Health members? It seems to me that there's a consensus across the board that we not take any action at this time to alter in any way our existing mask policy or mask mandate. I don't know, Judy, whether we need to say anything formally or just let the minutes reflect the fact that the board members had a discussion about this, and it was unanimous that we keep the current mask requirement in place. How do you think we should? Or Bob, do you have a comment on?
Yeah, John? Yeah, we had talked about this a little bit internally. Just given the fact that the state made some changes, CDC has updated their guidelines for wearing masks and whatnot. We decided that it would be helpful to the public, and we'd issue a press release basically saying that the Board of Health is maintaining the town's current mask order. through whatever, if you guys come up with a specific date tonight, we can put that in there. Or if you don't come up with a date, we'll just indicate that the mask order remains in place at the locations specified, for the immediate future, or some language like that. But we just thought it was important to get it out there so it's in the press and whatnot. So people coming into Chatham will know that, yes, that mask mandate is still in place. And we will keep the variable message board at the Rotary in place as well as the one that we had up at Lighthouse Overlook.
I like that idea, Bob, to put it out. Are the board members okay with that?
Yeah, so
And agree.
do we need to take a vote then, or no?
Yes, I guess we should take a vote.
I think we should.
Yeah, okay,
I think we should take a vote.
can I have a motion that the Board of Health,
John,
yes, Judy?
do you want to take any comments from any public that might want to weigh in on this? I see we have a lot of guests on the call.
Yes, I certainly can. Mary Cavanaugh has her hand up. Mary?
Thank you, John. So it's Mary Cavanaugh from the Chatham Chamber of Commerce and Merchants Association. And I just wanted to say, that we are all about, doing what we can to support all the businesses and our community as a whole. The only thing that I am just throwing out there for consideration is in regards to the electronic sign, to maybe come up with a message that maybe is a little bit more welcoming to town. I don't know if you're still planning on keeping the $300 fine, or if that goes away because that went away at the state level, or whether you all are still going to keep it. But I'm just throwing out there that maybe consider just editing the the wording on that sign a little bit. That's all I just wanted to mention.
Thank you. That's a good suggestion. Anyone else? I guess that would fall to Bob. Bob, who I think.
Yeah, John. Yeah, we can certainly take a look at that. As you can imagine, we're limited with the number of words we can put on the sign, and
right,
not have somebody have to sit there for 5 minutes reading it, kind of thing. But Mary did email me earlier a suggestion about, and this was just one idea that she had thrown out there, was something like, help support our business owners and their staff by wearing your mask. So, we can certainly look at something like that, or we can continue to keep it, pretty straight and clear cut like it is now. I'm assuming, because I haven't heard the board take any action yet, that the fine provisions that you put in place last summer will remain in the order. But certainly that's, if you wanted to change it, the opportunity is always there. But we could, if the board would like, we can either keep the wording as is, or we could potentially look at something, to use Mary's term, a little softer.
Comments?
This is Dick Edwards. I think if it's not a mandate, if it's a suggestion, then you're going to have 50% of people not wearing a mask. And right. I think you definitely need to continue a fine, or it's not going to be of any use.
I would tend to agree. Perhaps additional language put on the board that welcomes, welcome visitors to Chatham or something as an initial comment, and maybe delete the $300 fine specifically being mentioned, or just say, penalties apply. Yeah. I don't know, but I think there's some opportunities there to fashion something that does welcome our friends, but maintains the requirement.
Ron Broman, probably if you took the amount out just says subject to a fine.
Yeah,
Right.
You know,
that would be a little less heavy-handed, but still
yeah.
maintain the fact that there is a penalty.
Okay,
Yeah.
we can do that.
Okay.
We
Okay,
have a hand up. Carol,
Wait a second.
I see, I saw a hand
Okay,
up.
here I am. Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Yes, I was thinking I would like to see the sign be a little bit more warm and friendly to welcome people to Chatham. And I thought the governor said that they revoked the fine. Are we still allowed to impose a fine if people don't wear the mask?
We have a fine written into our order.
I see. Okay, then I would like to see the sign be a little more welcoming. I think the tourists are going to have, may have some problems maneuvering through Chatham this year anyway. So if we could be as welcoming as possible, I think that would help. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments?
Elaine Gibbs.
Elaine, you're on.
Thank you. I'm kind of thinking this is a little premature. It's only May 1st. And, Governor Baker is not exactly known as a renegade in terms of being really proactive on this. And the fact that the whole state is basically opening up and you don't need masks, I think we should find out what other towns on the Cape are doing. If we're the only ones with a mask requirement, and they come in from other towns where they're walking freely and we are making them wear masks, I think that might be a problem. Last year, I got it last year. It was new to people. They didn't know how to socially distance. We didn't know what the implications were going to be. A lot of people now, particularly I think the tourists, are probably going to have been vaccinated. Most of us at the high-risk area have been vaccinated. And I just think there's some individual responsibility. I think people are going to wear masks anyway. I don't know. Nobody wants to come near me. I don't know how you guys are. If you walk through a door, people run away. People have learned to socially distance. So I would just urge a little bit of caution if saying definitively, this is the way it's going to be till September. We need to start living. And we need people to feel good about the fact, if they have been vaccinated, that they don't have to wear a mask forever. At some point, we got to make this decision. And I just hope you look at other towns and make sure we're not the only people that are doing this. And it triggered with me in terms of baseball games, in terms of people sitting in the field. First of all, I never had anybody, when you're in the outfield, people didn't sit on top of each other. And people have learned to socially distance. And there is individual responsibility. And we monitor each other. If people get too close, we tell each other, step back. So if you want to say it's continuing for now, but see how it goes and see what other towns are doing. Because I think the state, it's time to open up. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine.
The governor did state you have to wear a mask if you can't socially distance. And I think the stipulation was that in July on Main Street in Chatham, you cannot socially distance.
Well, and I
You
agree
walk
with you
walk
on
in the
that.
street. So that was, and it's our responsibility to look out for the public health, not primarily. And then the number of attracting visitors is a secondary consideration. So I think that if we can't adequately socially distance on Main Street in the summer, then everybody should wear masks.
I agree with that. I don't think it's necessary at the transfer station, and I don't think it's necessary at Lighthouse Beach. Those places, people socially distance. I understand Main Street, but in terms of just going about doing our business, going to the transfer station, people socially distance there all the time. So it's just a suggestion to find out what other towns are doing, because we are a tourist community, and if they're not doing it, that may not apply to us, but at least we'll have that information. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Elaine. Further questions or comments?
I have a comment. What other towns are doing, downtown Chatham, like Dick said, in July and August, there is no way you can social distance. In other towns, you may be able to, but I don't think you can in downtown Chatham. Or at the fish pier, if you're on the observation deck.
Right.
So I think, whatever other towns are doing should not influence what we're gonna do. And when they come to Chatham, they can wear a mask when they're downtown.
This is John. I think that some people, a lot of people, would be reassured by a continued mask mandate because they would feel, I think, a level of greater safety. And we know everybody's very comfortable wearing masks now. Everybody has them. We're in the habit of wearing them now. So are we ready to have a motion made and seconded that the Board of Health at the present has decided upon further discussion to maintain the existing mask orders?
Does anyone else have concerns that it may be overkill at the transfer station? I mean, I don't think I've ever been within 3 feet of anybody at the transfer station. Why are we doing it at the transfer station?
Well, I think number one, the fellow up there in charge of the transfer station said he's okay and wants to keep it.
Well, yeah, but why? What's the logic there?
Well, at the recycle area, people crisscross all the time.
Right.
Right. The conversation I had with the DPW director was, especially in the recycling area, people are not able to maintain that 6-foot distance. So it was his recommendation that the order remain in place there. And then just one thing I wanted to say, remember, this board can revisit this topic anytime you want. The fact that you take a vote today does not mean it's set in concrete for 6 months. If things change in 2 weeks or 2 months, you can certainly, we can revisit it. If we need to have a special meeting to bring you back, we could do that as well. But, what you do today, you can change anytime the board would like to.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob. That's a very good point. And if we know anything about COVID-19, we know that it does change. It does head in different directions. It increases, it decreases, it morphs. We have more variants. I mean, who knows where we're going to be 2 or 3 months from now. So I like the idea of deciding now to maintain the current strategy and to revisit it periodically over the upcoming months to see whether it needs to be, whether we think it needs to be changed in any way.
Good, Sheehan, I agree.
Yeah. This is Ron Broman, and if you look at that letter from the Candy Manor, he states that he thinks it should be kept, in his letter, and it's not going to change people from coming to Chatham because of it. I'd like to make the motion that would stay with our plans that we have now.
Until further notice, right?
Until further notice, yes.
And that we revisit the language on the rotary sign and consider
and leave it up to
dropping the $300 fine line, but make the mandatory mask wearing downtown message remain.
Okay. So
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
All right, good. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Carol. Any further discussion? Any further comments from the public?
John, you do have 2 people with their hands up. You have Elaine Gibbs and Carol G.
All right.
I'm sorry, I didn't lower my hand. I apologize.
Okay. We have
All right.
we have
Still
another
have Carol G with their hand up.
Carol G, do you want to comment again?
No, guess not.
Okay. When I call your name, please indicate how you vote on the motion. Dr. Noble Hanson.
Approve.
Ron Broman.
Approve.
Ed Sheehan.
Approve.
Carol Boyce.
Approve.
And I vote to approve. Okay. So for the time being, at least, this is our position. Any further comments on this, or we'll move the agenda? Okay, let's go to item number 5, which is a discussion and an update regarding John Mcgrath's property at 32 Mill Hill Road. Dr. Duncanson, are you going to give us a recap on this?
Actually, your health agent, Judy Giorgio, was going to give you a quick update.
Okay, thank you. Judy, fire away.
Thank you. As you know, we've had a condition at 32 Mill Hill Road for several years that the board has been tracking. We've had public hearings and sent orders to clean up the excessive junk that is collected. It was sent to the selectmen for their review and see if we could get them to consider it an illegal junkyard. And we've been going back and forth with town council. Basically, where we've landed is that the selectmen have sent it back to the Board of Health, and they would like us to review our options in executive session, which is scheduled for Thursday with our town council. So that's where we're at. It's not too much else to say at this point. I mean, I can answer questions, but we are going to discuss what our next steps would be with town council.
Hi, this is John. I think between now and Thursday, every Board of Health member should make a point to drive over there and get out of your car and walk up and down the side of the road and kind of assess what you see. Because I went by there today and it seems to me to be worse than ever. And I think a picture's worth 1,000, what is it?
Words.
A picture's worth 1,000 words, and I think
Maybe 2,000 in this.
maybe 2,000. But for newer board members that may not be aware of the conditions at this location, need to visit and get to know what's out there. And then Judy, I guess, has sent out the contact or the information that we all need to link in on Thursday this will be an executive session, a confidential session.
So,
with the
John,
town-
can I just quickly explain? Just so the board knows, what I sent you was an invite to 2 separate meetings. The first is an open meeting advertised, where the board comes on, you take a roll call, and then you vote to go into executive session.
Okay.
And then the board closes that. Well, they go into executive session, but we have to close that meeting because we are doing it through Teams. So we're going to actually get out of that meeting, disconnect completely, and then come back in with the second link that was sent to you that is not a public link. And we will open the executive session and have the discussion with town council in a private Teams meeting. So I just
Okay.
wanted to make that clear.
Will
So
there be
you'll actually
anyone-
hang up and then call back in.
Okay. This is John. Will there be anyone else on the call other than town council and us and you and Bob?
That will be it, I believe. Yep.
Okay.
This is Dick Edwards. Can I ask one question?
Mm-hmm.
If you drive the whole length of that road, there appear to be other properties that are not as bad, but have similar issues. And have there been other issues with the board relating to, say, 241 Mill Hill Road, or even right across the street, 41? But 241 looks like a junkyard.
Yeah.
We have had some discussion about some of the other properties that have issues and not just on that street, but other properties around town. And this this is the first case that we are really going after. One of the issues with this is that they've expanded onto the road layout. They're actually on town property with much of the junk that's there. So, it's blocking parts of the roadway. And, but yes, I agree. There are other properties on that street and in town that do have some issues with collections of junk and could possibly be considered a nuisance, but this is by far the worst, and this is where we're gonna start. So I don't know if Bob wants to add anything to that.
What are we,
The only thing I wanted to say is we could talk about that in more detail on Thursday.
Yes.
and this is a blight ordinance? What ordinance are we,
It's under the nuisance, Mass General Law nuisance ordinance.
We have some information that we're going to send out to the board tomorrow. They came from town council. That'll kind of give you the appropriate background.
okay.
Very good. Thank you, Bob. All right. Anything
This is
else?
Ron Brumman. Ron, I
Yes.
want to ask Judy one question. Did the selectmen have any comments to make about it? Or just putting it back on our?
Ron, we can fill you in on that on Thursday.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so that's it for tonight, other than the fact that we do need to approve the minutes of April 26th. Does anybody have any comments or edits or corrections to the draft minutes for April 26th?
I just wanted to confirm the time of that meeting on Thursday. Is it 8:47 a.m.?
Oh, I'm
No.
sorry, the meeting is at 3 p.m.
Oh,
I'll recheck my my invite
okay.
and make sure it's correct and send it out again.
Thank you, Judy. All right, back to the minutes. April 26th minutes. Everyone got a draft copy of? Any corrections or edits? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of April 26th?
Approved, Ed Sheehan.
Can I get a second?
Second, Ron Brumman.
Thank you, Ron. Okay, when I call your name, please indicate how you vote on acceptance of the minutes for April 26th. Dr. Noble Hanson,
Approve?
Ron Broman,
Approve.
Ed Sheehan,
Approve.
Carol Boyce,
Approve.
John Beckley, I approve. Okay, so those minutes are accepted. Any last minute issues or items anybody would like to raise? If not,
I have one.
okay,
Last meeting
shoot.
I meant, yeah, you want me to go ahead?
Yes,
Okay, at the last meeting I asked about, the Lighthouse Beach because we ran into a real problem years ago. And I think we should meet with Park and Recs. And I know Bob is going to try to get a hold of them. Did you have any luck, Bob?
Dan Tobin's been on vacation, so we haven't set a date or anything yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
can I get a motion to adjourn?
Excuse me, I have something to say.
Okay, Carol G. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Thank you very much. Perhaps I didn't raise my hand quickly enough, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the Mcgrath property. I know
Okay.
it's been bounced from board to board probably since the 1990s. And I'm really hoping that when you go into your meeting, that you will let the public know what you have decided and there will be some transparency and action taken. I think that it's overdue, way overdue. And as you suggested, the property is out of control. And we would do all we can to help you get this taken care of.
Thank you for that input. Appreciate it.
I'm sorry,
All
who
right.
was that just spoke? I did not get it.
Carol Gordon.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Carol. All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn, Ed Sheehan.
Can I get a second to adjourn?
Second, Carol Boyce.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, when I call your name, please indicate how you vote on the motion to adjourn the meeting. Dr. Noble Hanson,
Approve?
Ron Broman,
Approve.
Ed Sheehan,
Approve.
Carol Boyce,
Approve.
and I vote to approve. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dick Edward, Dr. Edwards, and thank you, Dr. Ward, for participating as well. And thank you for all the board members and our interested public and staff.